Hello, good morning. It's good to see you. My name is really not Emma this time because I am changing it. My name is Howard.
And if you don't like it, you could leave. Okay, love you.
That's all I have to say about that. Today I am going to be doing the 20 questions book tag. I saw Noelle from Noelle Attempts to Read do it, and I thought it would be fun. It's originally created by the blog Paper Fury. I'll link it, and I am going to be crocheting because I saw Angel from Jurassic Reads do like a crochet and a like Q&A video where she was crocheting, and I thought that was a really fun idea and I would feel much less awkward talking to my crochet than just looking at my own face, if you know what I mean. Right now I'm working on this is a square. I'm making just a butt ton of granny squares to hopefully form a cardigan eventually once I have like 60 of them. I also found those videos where Angel was crocheting really like soothing and fun to watch. So hopefully you'll get like something from my answers, something that is visually pleasing, and this will be a mutually beneficial experience. So without further ado, question number 1 is how many books are too many for a series? And I'm not a big series reader. I really loved Harry Potter as a kid, and that was 7 books, so that was not too many at the time. I usually read books that are between 2 and 4 books in a series. I tried, my sister and I last year, one of her favorite series is the Ranger's Apprentice series by some guy. I don't know, I'll put a picture up. And there are 12 books in that series. And so we were reading them together basically one a month, every month. And I have only read through book 7. And then we both kind of got tired of them. We kind of fell off the wagon. We had been with those characters for too long. Maybe it would have been different if we had been reading them like one a year as they were coming out. But at the pace of one a month, I just was so bored of the characters. And so I think I'm going to go with, yeah, 7, because I only read 7 and I was ready to give up by book 5. So maybe 5 books is too much. Maybe stick to like 4 is, maybe I should only pick up books, series that are like 4 books or less for my own personal well being. Question number 2 is how do you feel about cliffhangers? I like them in the moment. I think it's very exciting. It makes me want to keep going, unless I didn't like the book, in which case, then I'm upset that there's a cliffhanger. But I think anticipation is part of the fun of series. And so if there's like a really satisfying ending to book 1 or 2, why am I going to pick up book 2 or 3 if I don't like care about what's going to happen to the characters? So this might bite me in the ass when I read a book with a cliffhanger that I'm really upset about and I have to wait like a whole year to find out what happens and I'm upset about it the whole time. But right now, having not read a cliffhanger in a while, I am a fan of cliffhangers. Number 3, hardcover or paperback. Let's put it another way. I am disabled. I have a really bad back, so there are only like a very limited amount of positions that I'm comfortable sitting in. And to put it bluntly, hardcover books are very heavy, and I need to conserve my energy for just the general stress of needing to be alive and do like daily tasks. So my preference is for sure paperbacks. They are lighter, they're easier to carry. But honestly, I'm a big fan of ebooks because my phone and my laptop are very light. They're very not heavy, uh, intentionally on purpose by me because I know that I have a hard time with heavy things. And especially because with an ebook, you can change the accessibility settings, you can make the text bigger. I have bad eyesight as well, so that is useful to me. So my preference for physical books is paperback, but I am also a big fan of ebooks. Question 4, favorite book. This is an easy one for me. It's Fierce Femmes and Notorious Liars, a dangerous trans girl's confabulous memoir by Kai Chang Tom. I have read this book a lot of times, and I love it a lot. I don't think I could explain it succinctly, so I won't try to, but just like based on the cover, you can probably figure out what the vibe is like. I'm not gonna hold it up. I have a copy, but I'll just put the thing up because, like I said, I'm disabled and I don't want to go to my bookshelf because that would be extra labor that I don't necessarily have the spoons for today. Here's what my finished square looks like. Question number 5 is least favorite book. I don't really have an answer for this. I don't really think a lot about books that I didn't like unless I had to read them for school. You know what? That's a good idea. Let me tell you my least favorite book that I've read for school. That would be The Monk by Matthew Lewis. It's about a monk who is like really good and virtuous, except for when he's like tempted, and then he starts doing just terrible things. And it's supposed to be satire, but I didn't like it. I didn't like reading it at all. It made me very uncomfortable, and I wish I hadn't read it. Yeah, least favorite for sure. Question 6: love triangles, yes or no? Um, I I'm going to preface this with saying I don't like love pairs. I'm not a big fan of romance in my personal life, let alone in books. So, like, it would be my preference that there weren't any romantic relationships. But since there have to be romantic relationships because most people want that, I don't really care if it's a pair or a triangle. I think, a triangle can advance the plot if it's done well. And so I like it just as much as I like pairs, which is not a lot. Number 7, most recent book you couldn't finish. Easy. Now, I don't think my professor is going to be watching this, but just in case you are, um, don't. I was supposed to read The Refugees by Viet Thanh Nguyen for my Asian American Lit class. It is a collection of short stories, and I just couldn't do it. They were all really depressing, and I'm really depressed right now, and I just didn't want to. So I read like a couple of them. I got the vibe, and I don't need to read any more of them right now. 8, a book you're currently reading. I am currently reading Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. I'm about 30% in. It's about a young Black teenager who finds out that he got a girl pregnant, and now he kind of unexpectedly has a child that he has to take care of, and he's figuring out like how the rest of his life is going to go. I really like it so far. Question number 9, the last book you recommended to someone. I don't actually know. I don't talk to anyone ever. It might have been Infect Your Friends and Loved Ones by Tori Peters. That is a novella that I read recently that I just couldn't shut up about when I read it because it was extremely excellent. And I'm going to recommend it to all of you right now. So I'm going to go with that one as the one that I've recommended because I just did it right now. See? Easy. Question 10, oldest book you've read by publication date. I'm pretty sure this is intended for like books you've read for fun by publication date, but I'm an English major and I had to take a long 18th century novel class, and so I read what is considered by some to be the first novel ever written, and that was Orinoco by Afra Ben. It's not really a novel. It falls more into like a travel narrative, but highly fictionalized. And I believe it was written at the end of the 1500s. I can fact check that later. But that's got to be the oldest book that I've read because it's the oldest book, unless you count the Bible, which I haven't read in its entirety because I don't care to. 11, newest book you've read by publication date. That might be Concrete Rose. I'm not sure. I don't read a lot of new books because I mostly get books from the library, and there's usually a wait list for new books. It might also have been Actor Age Eve Brown, which I pre-ordered and like read the day it came out. I'm not sure when Concrete Rose came out. I know it was recently. I don't know if it was before or after Actor Age Eve Brown, but one of those two. Question 12 is favorite author. I have a couple favorite authors. Kai Chang Tom, for sure. She wrote my favorite book, and she also wrote a book of essays and a book of poems. I haven't read the book of poems yet, but the book of essays is excellent, and I follow her on Twitter, and she just gets right to my soul in the most hurtful and healing of ways. I also really love Jason Reynolds. I really love Jason Reynolds' books. I've read a couple of his, and I just read a book, Jhumpa Lahiri. I've read 2 of her books. I've read The Namesake, her novel, and Interpreter of Maladies, her short story collection, and I loved both of them. And I really want to read more by her. I think once I do, she will become one of my favorite authors. Buying books or borrowing books, I prefer to borrow books. I don't want to buy a book unless I know that I like it. I mainly buy books if I want to reread them, or if I know I'm going to read them over and over again, or if they're by an author that I like really, really trust. Like I pre-ordered Act Your Age, Eve Brown, because I read the other 2 books in that series and I really trusted that Talia Hibbert was going to give me what I wanted, which was Autism Rep, not the romance, in case you were wondering. I don't know if I'm going to keep that in. But I usually will only buy a book if I read it and I love it and I can't bear parting with it to give it back to the library. 14. A book you dislike that everyone seems to love. I don't know. I'm not big on Shakespeare. That's a very English major answer. um, I don't know. I don't know that I dislike any books. Okay, after a brief Goodreads search, a book I dislike that everyone seems to love is the second book in the Scythe series, Thunderhead. It is very long and tested my patience. I tried to read the third book just to like try to finish the series, and I could only get like a couple chapters in. I hated that book a lot. I gave it 2 stars. The first book was fine. That's why I read the second book. But I do not understand why people continue to enjoy that series. And if you do, like, I'm really happy for you. I personally, I don't get it. Question 15 is bookmarks or dog ears. Uh, for my own books, I don't really care, but because I mostly get books from the library, I prefer to use a bookmark. And I don't really care what I use as a bookmark as long as it's like thin. I can use like a post-it or a receipt or an actual bookmark. But I prefer to use something to mark the page that isn't damaging the property of the library. Question 16, a book you can always reread. This is going to get repetitive, but Fierce Femmes and Notorious Liars, I've read it like 6 or 7 times, I think, in the past 3 years. Also, something I'm realizing is that Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston is like a safe book for me because I'm currently like listening to it for the 3rd time. I re-listened to it in January when my life was absolutely falling apart. I am still dealing with the repercussions of my life absolutely falling apart, and I'm listening to it again because why wouldn't I want something that I know how it goes and makes me feel safe? So I think I'm realizing that book is specifically the audiobook for that is a book I'm going to be returning to in my life. Question 17, can you read while listening to music? Yes, sometimes, and no, sometimes. Sometimes I need absolute quiet, and then sometimes I need music or I can't focus. These are the joys of having ADHD. Sometimes I even need to put on like a show or like something with words, and other times I'll put on like a rainforest rain 10 hours thing, and it all really depends on the day. Question 18, I have very strong feelings about one point of view or multiple, and that is because I had a terrible, terrible, terrible experience with my first book with multiple points of view. I remember it distinctly. It was the last book in the Divergent series. That was the first book I ever read with multiple points of view, and that book was just so bad, and I hated it so much that for years after reading it, I flat out refused to read any book from multiple points of view. Um, I have since kind of lifted my ban on like flat out not reading any books with multiple points of view, but I still, anytime someone pitches me a book and they're like, oh, and by the way, it's multiple points of view, I'm like, okay, and then I'm just a little bit less likely to read that book, which is not fair to all of the other books. Like, if I had read any other book with multiple points of view before I had read the last Divergent book, I think I would be very fine with multiple points of view. It's just that that one was so bad and so awful that it just kind of ruined me for all multiple points of view books for for until now. Question 19, do you read a book in one sitting or over multiple days? It depends. Right now, I've been just very depressed, and it's hard to motivate myself to do anything for more than 10 minutes, including reading, which is not good because I'm behind on the books I have to read for school, as previously mentioned in this video. Um, but when I'm not, if I like the book, I will just sit and read it until it's done and be perfectly content to do that. Some books you can't read in one sitting, which is okay. I enjoy all of the different reading experiences. I I don't know if it's just the depression or what, but I feel like now that it's taking me, like, it usually takes me like a week or less to read a average sized book, but it's been taking me a lot longer. It's been taking me like 2-3 weeks, and I'm really not enjoying it. And it might just be because I'm depressed, but it might also be because, like, that's too long for me to spend with one book. Like, I need it to not feel like it's dragging on forever and ever in order to, like, be excited to keep picking it up. So I don't really know what to do about that one. And finally, question 20 is, who do you tag? And I am too shy to tag anyone because I don't know if they want to be tagged. I don't know anyone personally. I don't want to tag anyone if it would make them uncomfortable. Um, but if you want to do this tag and you weren't tagged, because I didn't tag anyone, do it anyway. That's what I did. No one tagged me. I just saw someone do it and thought it would be fun. And so I'm doing it. And that's all I have. I made like one full square because I started this one before I started filming and I'm not quite done with this one. So we're going to call that one square. I hope you had a good time. Just as a reminder, my name is Howard. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one.